What is up, beautiful people? The road to 100k a month, episode 7. And I'm hyped as fuck, bro. I'm excited. I went through a lot of lessons this week. And I'm actually genuinely excited to record this video, to share my knowledge, to share my week recap, my trade recaps, the things I've learned. And I'm excited, bro. And I hope you guys are as well, because genuinely recording these videos, for me, it's like a highlight of the week. And I think it would be one of my goals to make it like a highlight of a week for a lot of you people watching this. But I hope everybody had a good week. And if you're watching this next week, I hope you have a fucking killer next week as well. But let's get straight into it. As tradition, I'll go over and I'll put up my P&L. That was our P&L for the week. So we had a break even on Monday. Well, I mean, you guys can see it there. We'll go over everything as well. Thursday was a no trade day, which actually had a setup, but we'll go over what we learned on Thursday. And Friday, always a fucking L, bro. I genuinely, bro, it's a fucking curse. But I genuinely was unfazed because, as you guys find out, and I'll explain, we stuck to our rules and we were disciplined. Now getting it straight into it, as of Monday. So, recap on Monday. We stopped reading Meditations by Marcus Aurelius, and we have now switched to Relentless by Toughness. Obviously there's no cover, it fell off, but that's the title of the book. And I'll put up a screenshot of the cover in case you guys want to order it. And I like this book a lot more, bro. Like, this is the third time I'm reading this book, and for some reason the first time and the second time it did not hit as hard as it is hitting right now, bro. Genuinely, the value on the source in this, because like, bro, I was reading Meditations by Marcus Aurelius. I don't know if it was the illustrator who published it, but it was as if I was reading like Winston Churchill fucking English, bro. Shit was even before his time, bro. Like the most complicated English ever. And then this is, bro, fire, bro. For those that don't know, Tim S. Grover was the personal coach, mindset coach for the best of the best. His most common client, I think, was Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant, who was the other good one? Dwayne Wade, Scottie Pippen, Magic Johnson, all these basketball players. And he was there with them in their journeys, in their careers. And as a fact, I'll actually give the first, as an interpretation of what the book is. Because I think it's a new way that we've recorded this. I've never read a book page, but I think it's worth it. I think it was page 3, describes it. Let's see. As always, uncut, unfiltered. Yeah, there we go. To be the best, whether in sports or business or any other aspect of life, it's never enough just to get to the top. You have to stay there. And then you have to climb higher. Because there's always someone right behind you trying to catch up. Most people are willing to settle for good enough. But if you want to be unstoppable, those words mean nothing to you. Being the best means engineering your life so you never stop until you get what you want. And then you keep going until you get what's next. And then you go for even more. That in a nutshell is pretty much what the fucking book is about. It is about never being satisfied, never being content, always pushing for more, never being satisfied, crushing your competition, like all of these attributes. And I think I'll read a couple more pages as well. I think there's a lot more values I learned across the week. But that's what I learned on Mondays. I started reading that, and that was the first thing that happened. As far as the trade, I'll put up the trade as well for our first trade on Monday and our buys. Oh wait, I didn't put the P&L for our drawdown on our accounts. So that's our P&L for our drawdown on our accounts. So as of last week, we now turned back into the green. So we are technically eligible for a payout across our 5 accounts. However, as I think I mentioned last episode, I want to shoot for a max payout. I'm confident that we'll be able to do that fairly soon. And that's what we're going to be doing. Now, as of the first trade, I'll put it up as I mentioned. The bias pretty much was, we had a 4-hour bearish trend. We had a 1 hour looking like we could get a break of structure to the upside. On the 15-minute, we were on an uptrend. Would be interesting to see if the new week opening gap gets respected or disrespected and market open. Would like to see a grab of liquidity to the downside and see how price reacts to the new week opening gap. What ended up happening was new week opening gap had been respected. It price swept liquidity, price recovered bullish, then failed to do breaker structure on the 1 hour and the 15. We formed a downtrend on all time frames, dumped and broke past new week opening gap. 50-minute gap formed and respected, 5-minute gap formed and respected. Entered a little bit later. because I wanted to get price under the sweep. I think it was like the black line, just to get that full confirmation. And then targets were Asia low and London low, and I think that smacked. So I think we had partials and break even hit. TP1 was a break even, so I don't think it actually hit TP1. No, I don't think it did. So it was just a break even. My thoughts for Monday was it was choppy as fuck, but I'm glad that we got at least a little bit of a win, got off the charts. Reason being was I just felt like it was the exact price action from Friday, which was choppy, and I learned from that, so stayed out. And I've tend to found, like, for me, Fridays are one of the worst days. I think second worst days would probably be Monday. I think it's because I think there's never news on Monday, but Mondays aren't sometimes the best for me. I think the best trading days for me are Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursdays, usually, always. And that was a trade. So as far as that went, Tuesday, I put it here, page 19, Jordan standards holding up, fingers to the next season. Oh, this is, bro, I'm about to read you guys some fucking fire, bro. So this is what I learned on Tuesday. For context, I always do reading before I head into the charts. And reading this before going into the charts, bro, like, it puts you in such a mental state and a good frequency that, bro, makes you unstoppable. It's page 19. Yeah, I'll read from the top here. This is so fucking fire, bro. There's nothing wrong with being great. It's better than being good. Being great means you excel, which is hard to accomplish and something to be proud of. But it doesn't make you the best. Greatness makes you a legend. Being the best makes you an icon. If you want to be great, deliver to the unexpected. If you want to be the best, deliver a miracle. This isn't just about sports performance. There are cleaners in all walks of life. Look at the elite of any group, the top athletes, or the wealthiest CEOs, or the smartest students, or the strongest firemen. It doesn't matter. And it's fairly obvious that while they're all great at what they do, some will always perform at a different level. Look at the famed 1992 Dream Team. With 11 Hall of Famers, you can probably separate a couple from the rest. They all had talent, but a couple of them will forever be considered among the best of all time. Michael set the standard for killer instinct and competitive drive. Each time his Chicago Bulls sealed another championship, there were 6. He wouldn't just hold up the number of fingers for the rings he had already won, he'd hold up an extra finger for the next championship. After the first win, he held up 2. After the second, he held up 3. After the 5th, he held up 6. We'd be back in the locker room, champagne dripping down the walls, and he'd already be telling me what he needed to do and work on for the next season. A full year before he took his brief sabbatical to play baseball, he was already buzzing in my ear about baseball workouts. Never satisfied, never content, always pushing higher and higher. Now that, for me, bro, I don't know if anybody else, bro, when I first read that, I was jumping up and fucking down, bro. Like, that is like a winner mindset. And I remember, I don't know, I heard that story before, but it was so true. And I don't know if a lot of you might know this story, but it's so true, bro. Like, Jordan, when he would win his championships, like, think of what a mindset that takes. You win a fucking championship, and instead of celebrating it, you're already putting up a finger for the next fucking championship. And that's why they won 6 championships. In each championship, he put up an extra finger, even after the fucking 5th, bro. So I thought I'd mention it. And what I took away from that, as terms of what I took away from it, was the standards. And it's kind of like, I guess it's me doing this series as well, like the road to 100K a month. But it's just a standard for me. And I think everybody should adopt that aspect of life where, for Jordan, what I interpreted from when I read that page was, for Jordan, it's a standard to win championships. You know, for most people and most basketball players and any achievements or accolades of walks of life, you know, you always want to win once, or it's a dream. For Jordan, it wasn't a standard to just win it. It was to win it 1 time, 2 times, 3 times, 4 times, 5 times, 6 times. And I think the lesson I took away from that is just have standards for yourself. You know, you will only go as far as you can set the bar. And if you set the bar at a certain level, that's what you're going to get to, bro. Like, for me, bro, if I told you guys some of the visions I want to go to in life and the things I want to accomplish, or at least to an average person. My audience is not average, so they probably won't get surprised. But to an average person, like, bro, brain would fucking turn off, bro. They wouldn't fucking understand it. And I think having standards is a good thing. And actually, another point I'll say to that, one of the things in the book Relentless, and this is why a lot of people maybe watching this themselves might not resonate with what I'm saying or what I've read so far, or when they read the book, they might not get a fire under their ass, is that it's not meant for everybody. Like there's 3 groups that Tim S. Grover describes, and it is coolers, closers, and cleaners. The cleaners are your top 1%. It's your Ronaldo in football. It is your Michael Jordan, Kobe in basketball. It is the best of the best in any given field. And it's a different mindset. It's wired totally different. It's egotistical. It's trauma, I would imagine, in a lot of them. It's a dark mindset. It's never being satisfied, never being content. It means not having a fucking personal life. And, you know, for some people that doesn't hit. Like for me, like the road to 100K a month, like that's what I'm obsessed about right now. I'm obsessed of trading. That's what I want to accomplish. And, you know, if that means I'm sacrificing other aspects of my life, I don't give a fuck, bro. Because that's what I'm signing up for. And I think a lot of people, if they want to be the best of the best and the greatest, some people can't accept that and aren't willing to make the sacrifices. But I am. And going into Tuesday, so I'll put up the trade for Tuesday. We had a 4-hour bearish trend, 1 hour following bearish trend as well. Most of the draws of liquidity were out to the upside. We had a choppy Asia and London session. High time frames show bearish, but we'll see how market opens. London session 1 hour. We had a bearish gap respected multiple times. Could be an important indicator on how price reacts at the open. So what ended up happening was we had a 1 hour pre-market gap that was respected. 50-minute pre-market gap respected as well. Following bearish trend on all time frames. Previous New York low swept. No recent draws of liquidity left to the downside, but still looking super bearish. Would like to see a pullback and look for shorts. Got the pullback and failed to break structure to the upside. 5-minute gap formed and respected, and that's when we entered 25 contracts. Partials hit, TP1 hit, and then break even hit. Now, I would have preferred to enter earlier. As you guys can see, I have a black line that's like a circle drawing of where I would have likely entered. Now the reason was, for all of my trades up to this point, they have pretty much all been 10-point stop losses. And I think I've stopped that. Well, that's the lesson I learned on that day, was not to have like a magic number for 10 points. Like I think in my mind, I put like a 10-point stop loss because it was easy to calculate how many contracts I would need, how to size it, and it was just an easy standard number. But the reason I didn't enter that trade at that black line where I wanted to, and that was a prime entry, because bro, if all of my draws of liquidity hit, and they did, bro, it would have been one of my best trades. But the reason I hadn't is because, as you can see, the following spike, price just tanked, and it was a bad entry. And the reason I hadn't entered was because the RR was off. But, or at least because my stop loss wasn't where I wanted to be. So the lesson I took out of there is like, it is better to sometimes have a higher stop loss. And if you don't want to size more, but just put less contracts. So that's what I learned, because what I would have, if I entered at that point, my stop loss would have only been like an extra 4 or 5 points. And I would have been comfortable with doing that. And then that wouldn't have been a massive difference. So that's what I put there. And that was the lesson. So an exception if needed, bigger stop loss, less contracts. And that's what I think I could have done better in that trade. Going to Wednesday, should we read another page, bro? Oh my God, I'm sweating as fuck. Let's read another page, bro. Wednesday, Saturday. Oh, Wednesday, never being satisfied, top 24. Let's read this shit. This is so fucking good, bro. Genuinely, bro, if anybody resonates when I'm reading this, order the fucking book, bro. It is so fucking good. I think this was about Michael as well, once again. Or I think about a cleaner. Everything he does is to feed that addiction. It's not that he loves the process, he just loves the end result. I know you've absorbed a lifetime of advice about this. Love what you do and you'll never work a day in your life. or love what you do and the money will follow. That might be true for some people, but not for a cleaner. The idea of loving what he does would mean he would be content. And a cleaner is never ever content. Cleaners understand they don't have to love the work to be successful. They just have to be relentless about achieving it. And everything else in between is a diversion and a distraction from the ultimate prize. To an athlete, it means endless hours in the gym, training and sweating and hurting. To a business owner, it's the time away from home and family, sacrificing a personal life for professional gain. For the teacher, it might mean the untold unpaid hours, getting every student through 4 years of high school and into college. The result is all that matters. And I think that was also along the lines of never being satisfied. And I think I naturally possess that trait, and I think everybody should as well, where it's such a cutthroat aspect. Like for me, even just making this journey of the road to 100K a month, it will be my first goal of fucking many, but I'm so cutthroat. It is my main focus. It is my main objective, and I will accomplish it in front of everybody's face and in front of everybody's eyes. For those that supported me or don't, I don't give a fuck. It's being done. And I think I kind of spoke about this earlier before I even read the book, but it was, also taking into account sacrifices and all that side of things. And I think at that point, I also added an affirmation to my pre-market sort of affirmation list. And I think I added in there, I'm never satisfied nor content. We trade the session and on to the next. Very simple, very short one. But the main thing I want to solidify in there is the satisfied nor content. And I think a reason I think that's also a really good point, this actually will go something deeper and how it correlates into trading, is that it also adds that layer of emotional regulation where I remember when I read this on Wednesday. And I think Wednesday was my biggest win for the week, if I'm not mistaken. It was. It adds that layer of emotional regulation where it's like you're not satisfied after you won. I think for me it was like a 1.3K day, or I think 1.4K day. And at the back of reading that page and about like reading that section, I didn't give a fuck. Like I was like, I kept that in mind. Going into the session, I was like, I'm never satisfied, never content. Never satisfied, never content. And again, a lot of people might see me just say that and be like, what, such a bad mindset to have. That's so bad. Like you're never going to be happy about your results. No, that's the whole point. I want to go for the top, and it means not being satisfied with the process. It's the only thing that matters is the outcome, as I just read in that fucking book. And that's one thing I think it's a good way to have as a trader, a good mindset to have to a trader. Because I think sometimes you can, I remember my first weeks, and you guys can see this on my first episodes, you get happy in the wins and you get put down in the losses. Whereas when you have a mindset that's never content, never satisfied, quite frankly, it doesn't fucking matter. Because over the long run, that person knows that they're going to hit their goals, they're going to achieve those numbers. So whatever happens on any given day, doesn't fucking matter. Good or bad, it's one step direction to where they want to get to. And that's what I took out of that. As far as the trade on Wednesday, we had a 4-hour continuing bearish trend. High time frame 1 hour plus 4 hour was close to break a structure, but as it stands, they were still in a bearish trend. We'll keep an eye. Asia and London session formed a 4-hour bullish gap. We had respected on the 1 hour. New day opening gap as well below 2. All of the drove liquidity was onto the downside. Would look to see how price reacts to the 4-hour gap and the new day opening gap as well. We also had FOMC news at 2 p.m. Mark that on the chart. Didn't do jack shit in terms of like move the markets. And then as far as our first trade, so 4-hour gap hadn't closed, plus hadn't been respected. Market tanked at the open. Price recovered aggressively but dropped back, not forming a 5-minute plus 15-minute V-shaped recovery. Failed to break past pre-market 15-minute bearish gap. We had respected it and we had inversed it. All timeframes had continuing bearish trend. Failed to break structure on the high timeframes, and then we entered on the 5-minute. We put 25 contracts on there. Partials and break-evens got hit, and then TP1 was a break-even. That this time our stop loss was 15 points. Now the thoughts here, I liked how I fucking phrased this. This was fucking G. Thoughts was definition of proactive application. Flawless execution from yesterday's lesson. Higher stop loss, less contracts than intended. Break-even hit. and market exploded. In terms of exploded, what ended up happening? Ended up pros crazy, bro. In real time, it was actually nuts. But the lesson I took in there was, as I learned from the previous day, and the way I phrased this was such a good way, and I think everyone should strive to have this mindset, and me included, is proactive application. Learning something and taking the lesson and taking the wisdom and actually applying it. You know, whether you watch videos, whether you read books, whether like myself, I do trade journals. Every fucking trade, I'm journaling the trade, I'm recapping it, I'm seeing what I could do better. As I did the previous day, and the following fucking day, applying that shit instantly. I think a lot of people, like, I don't know where this habit stemmed from, but I think maybe chess, it maybe stemmed from chess, with always reviewing my games, seeing how I could have won if I lost, seeing if I won, how I could do better. But yeah, I think it's a really good habit to have. And this time, yeah, like, we didn't put 10-point stop loss, we had a 15. That made me more comfortable, and, you know, at least we got something out of the market. But what ended up happening was we did a second trade on that day. So we had 2 trades on that day. Based off that bullish run, suddenly we were looking bullish. Price remained bullish after the spike. Breaker structure on all time frames, including the 1 hour and the 4 hour. We broke past and inversed the 15-minute bearish gap. Super clean 15-minute V-shaped recovery. Formed a new 15-minute bullish gap, which had been respected multiple times. Waited for the 5-minute to form and entered. The targets were all the significant highs from previous sessions. We entered a little bit less with contracts. We put 20 contracts. Partials got hit, TP1 got hit, and then TP2 was a break even. This time, once again, 15-point stop loss, and it made me more comfortable, and we ended up securing it. So, thoughts, earlier entry at the 5-minute would have been preferred. That's true as well. I would have preferred to enter at the 5-minute below. Would have been better, but is what it is. Valid, but wanted to see a retrace, but didn't get it. But entered on the second fair value gap. Exact significant levels. Swiped. Good limits. Once again, applying that comment from one of the previous persons, if you're watching this, legend, who always said, like, make sure you have you set your orders at key significant levels. As you guys can see, I mean, it fucking, like, to a T, it took out our significant levels, and then it ended up dropping and chopping around. I don't think it ended up dropping massive. I think it just chopped from my entry point to that loss until market closed. Going into Thursday, no real wisdom from this book. I don't know why. I think I read only like 20 minutes. But one of the thoughts I have, I don't know where the source came from, but it was about not pedestalizing success. I don't know. I think maybe it was an internal thought, and I thought to write it down. But it's true. I think one of the things I used to do with my goals, and I know I'm kind of speaking to this into the existence as if I'm the version of myself who has already accomplished the 100K a month. In all of my prior goals, I've always put a pedestal on things. I don't know where it comes from naturally, but I think it's a very inclining thing to do for our subconscious, is to set a goal and make it seem as like, oh, it's this big grand thing. But one thing I've tried to instill going to this journey as well of the road to 100K a month, and I'm sure the others to follow, is I don't give a fuck, bro. There's energy in this pursuit that has a level of clear-headedness, calmness, detachment, and ultimately not pedestalizing the goal of the 100K a month. A lot of people watching this, for example, might think 100K a month is obscene. It's going to take this kid years to take. Others might not think otherwise, which I'm on that team. But I don't pedestalize it. I don't think it's a hard goal. I don't think it's something that's obscene. I don't think it's something that's challenging. I don't think it's something that's hard. In my brain, I think it's achievable. I think it's easy. I think it's attainable. It's there for the taking. And I think that's the mindset one should adopt, rather than the mindset that limits the potential one has. And I don't believe in things that don't serve me. Why should I? Another thing, updates on the Thursday in terms of our morning routine. So I think I mentioned it like 3 episodes ago, like what's our pre-market routine. It's been working really well. So for those that, I think I'll give a recap. It was the Wim Hof, the white wall. What did I put here in my notes though? Yeah, so it's pretty much the Wim Hof. I do a Wim Hof, first I do a white wall stare to regulate my dopamine levels. I then go back into Wim Hof 10 minutes on YouTube, which you guys can search up. And then I go into my terrace for like 2 minutes, try and see if I can see a supercar in the Dubai roads, and then get back straight into the market. But updates on that. Specifically, I would say the white wall stare, which is quite an interesting one. The white wall stare, it's a little bit of a discipline habit. So in fact, all of these things have built a lot of discipline in me. I think it's a really good way. It's like the main objective of why I do firstly the white wall stare is that I regulate my dopamine levels. I tend to find that when I was trading before I had done the white wall stare, when I would trade in the markets live, sometimes I would go on my phone, and it's so tempting to just scroll reels or do whatever as you're waiting for the market to hit your setup, or you're waiting for your TP to hit, whatever. And in doing so, it takes that out of it. So it helps regulate my dopamine levels, where I don't need to get any sort of instant dopamine as I go into pre-market. And the Wim Hof breathing, which is 10 minutes. And I thought I'd give an update on that, where it's like, not only do I get the benefits of like neurologically, the dopamine regulation, then I think it's just lowering my cortisol when I'm fucking doing my Wim Hof. It's just sick, bro. And on top of that, it's building discipline. Multiple times when I did my 15-minute wall stare, especially this week, so it's now been 2 weeks since I've been doing it, 3. I don't want to fucking do it. It's boring as fucking shit, bro. I'm staring at a white wall, itching to do something, and I can't because I dedicated myself to do 15-minute wall stares. So I think that's a good thing to do. It adds that level of discipline. And I think by practicing those aspects of discipline, and whatever your guys, if you don't have a routine, I would make a routine, for the reason that if you can stick to a routine for a long enough time frame, as like, let's say before pre-market, by instilling those habits of discipline, by doing it repetitively every single fucking day, you're instilling discipline outside of the charts, which would mean when you're in the charts, what do you think that would do? It would instill discipline. So that's my hypothesis, that's my brain thinking or my thought pattern in doing so. And that was the case. But going into Thursday, bias 4-hour bullish gap formed. Yesterday respected multiple times, yet to be broken past and disrespected. All time frames were turning bearish, already have. London Asia session chopped, but did form a bearish 1-hour gap. Would like to see how price reacts to the 4-hour gap plus the 1-hour gap at open. Draws of liquidity on both sides, staying open-minded. So what ended up happening is I'll put up a screenshot of what the market was like, and then what I'll do that after. But we were pretty much chopped, like on like every single like 30 minutes or 15 minutes. My bias was like, okay, let's look for a long setup, bearish setup, long setup, bearish setup. And it was fucking around for so long. And internally in my mind, I had thought, if we can break past this 4-hour gap, which was where price was pretty much fucking around the whole time, I'm confident this shit's gonna rip. And that's what ended up fucking happening, but we didn't execute. I think maybe it was just a fluster of like seeing nothing happen for the markets for hours. I think it was on the chart for like 3-4 hours. And then all of a sudden it's just fucking rallying. And every time it rallied, that in my brain, I don't know why, I thought it would retrace, it would go down and it would drop, but it kept going up. And so the lessons I had here, so at the time, the feeling was worse than losing a trade. I think that was one of the first times I felt extreme FOMO, where it was at the time, like I got off the charts, bro, I was furious, bro. You could put me into a fucking UFC cage, fight me, put anyone in front of me, and I would have like, bro, complete utter rage. And as I put here, it was worse than losing a trade. One of the mentally toughest days yet, extreme FOMO, but taking it as game XP, like a video game, with the trading psychology. The amount of times I wanted to find an entry and just get in for the sake of it, but it just wasn't a good setup. Like again, and I'll show the setup that I would have took. In fact, I'll pull it up right now. That is the setup I would have took. Once we broke past that 4-hour gap, we formed 2 50-minute fair value gaps. What I was looking for was ideally a 5-minute after the first 15-minute gap, but we just didn't get a 5-minute. My brain, what I should have done in my brain was thought, after 2 50-minute gaps, that is a clear continuation that price is still going to go up. And that's what, if I put it, as I put in my trade, and if I entered at that point, that would have been a 2.6 RR trade and a really good setup. So that's the trade I would have took, but we didn't. And I could sit here and kick myself, which I kind of was at the end of that session, but it is what it is. Mentally was angry at myself since I had a feeling and waited the whole session for those levels to be taken, and they ended up taking. And then, yeah, as I explained, that's the setup I would have taken. And then going into Friday, going to as far as the trade, all time frames super bullish. 4-hour gap from yesterday yet to be broken past 2 1-hour bullish gaps from Asia session. A lot of draws on liquidity to the downside, but also edging to all-time highs again. Since it's Friday, last session before weekend plus Memorial Day holiday, I suspect a slow market and if anything a bearish sell-offs ahead of the weekend, but let's see. Pre-decided, one trade, 10 to 15 contracts depending on my conviction levels. And as far as the setup, all time frames were maintaining bullish trend. Significant draws of liquidity above plus all-time highs as markets were not far away. 1-hour bearish gap had been respected pre-market and plus open. 5-minute plus 15-minute V-shaped recovery. 5-minute gap formed and respected. 15-minute gap formed and respected. At that point, I entered. Usually a very early trade at 9:46. We had put 15 contracts, and obviously, as you guys can see, fucking tanked. And as suspected, fucking shit session, bro. Chopped the rest, and we learned our lesson. One trade, and we stuck to what we pre-decided. My thoughts were it was a valid setup earlier than usual, but felt the confluences presented a good setup. Stuck to the pre-decided decision for the rest of the session, wrapped up for the week. And that was the case. And as it stands, as recording this, it is Sunday, 24th of May, 2026. Tomorrow is Memorial Day, so the markets are closed. So if you're watching this today, or if you're watching this tomorrow, markets are closed tomorrow. So going into next week, it is 4 days for the trading week. I'm going to be confident that we can execute a good couple trades, and I'm excited. And aside from that, I hope you guys enjoyed episode 7. Like I said, I always like recording these because it's a highlight of the week for me. It summarizes and it keeps me accountable to the things I'm learning, the things I'm taking away, the journey and the development of me, myself as a trader. And let me know what you guys thought about the reading, if I should do that. If you guys liked me sharing those insights from the book directly. I thought I'd just share those specific ones because all of those points, when I was reading them in real time, made such a drastic effect. Like I was pumped up as fuck. But aside from that, hope you enjoyed. As always as well, if at any point you guys have any suggestions or any comments on what I should do better, and any, like, again, I'm super open-minded. Like, that's one of the last rant here, but one of the things I've always had is a super open mind. I will sit in front of somebody that I completely oppose opinions with, and I will still listen to exactly what he has to say and try and see where he's coming from. And I think that mindset for me is cultivated a mindset where I am open to extreme feedback and anything that can help me progress. So if any point, if it's my trading, if it's whatever my habits are, whatever you guys explain with, or suggestions, I'm always open to hearing it, and I always read the comments. But aside from that, hope you guys enjoyed. Keep fucking crushing.